The Galactic Alliance was teetering on the edge of collapse. For centuries, dozens of alien species had tried to cooperate, but after a series of diplomatic misunderstandings, one involving a Rithka ambassador and a misinterpreted gift of disembodied antennae, the Alliance was one passive-aggressive memo away from full-blown interstellar war. Enter humans, the species known for surviving countless internal disputes, not with military prowess or advanced technology, but through endless bureaucracy. When the Galactic Council requested help from Earth, they didn't get soldiers or diplomats. They got something far more terrifying: inhuman resources. The day Janet Harper, Senior Synergy Officer, arrived at the Alliance's headquarters, the entire station fell silent. Aliens who had fought in wars and lived through galaxy-wide crises stared in confusion at the sight of a woman in business-casual attire, clutching a clipboard. Beside her was Bob, the team-building expert, looking far too excited about mandatory participation in whatever hell they had planned. And Karen, the master of passive aggression, stood by silently, already eyeing the aliens as if she was about to file a complaint against the entire galaxy. The council leaders gathered in the main hall, murmuring amongst themselves. A seven-eyed Shilthan warlord named Gorlak had already begun making plans to vaporize these human peacekeepers the moment things went south. Janet, completely oblivious to the rising tension, cleared her throat and smiled broadly. "Welcome, everyone," she announced. "We're here to facilitate a robust team-building initiative and introduce comprehensive conflict resolution strategies through our cutting-edge in-human resources system." A thick, awkward silence fell over the room. One of the Glorbs, a gelatinous species known for their politeness, finally spoke up. "I'm sorry, but what is in-human resources? Are you not warriors? Diplomats?" Karen scoffed under her breath, muttering something about primitive life forms. Janet, however, was in full presentation mode. She tapped her clipboard and nodded enthusiastically. "Think of us as the grease that keeps the intergalactic machine running. We specialize in improving workplace culture, fostering interspecies collaboration, and maximizing synergies. Now, we're going to start with some icebreakers." The aliens exchanged confused glances. Gorlak, who had spent his entire life conquering planets, leaned forward, his 7 eyes narrowing suspiciously. "Icebreakers?" "Yes," Bob chimed in, pulling a stack of laminated cards from his briefcase. "I'm going to ask you to partner up with someone from a different species and share a fun fact about yourself. This helps build trust and openness." Gorlak's claws clenched. Fun facts? He hadn't slaughtered half the inhabitants of a border planet to sit through this nonsense. But protocol required him to at least pretend to cooperate. He begrudgingly paired up with a Zalrathian diplomat who had been silently vibrating in the corner, clearly uncomfortable with the entire situation. Gorlak cleared his throat. "A fun fact about myself?" he growled. "I once led a campaign that resulted in the eradication of 12 species. The Zalrathian diplomat's vibrating increased. I enjoy long walks on my planet's methane beaches." Janet clapped her hands together. "See? Look at that communication. Wonderful. We're already building bridges." Meanwhile, Bob moved on to the next part of the exercise. The trust fall. The idea was simple: get one alien to fall backwards, trusting that their partner would catch them. It was the epitome of teamwork and reliance. Of course, no one considered the anatomical differences. The gelatinous glorb went first. "I will now fall," it announced. The massive blob teetered back, its gelatinous form splattering across the floor the moment it made contact. Everyone within a 10-foot radius was now covered in translucent goo. The Grisholt warrior, a species known for their 6 arms and impeccable strength, looked at the splattered mess with disdain. When it came time for his turn, he hurled his partner, an unfortunate Zikta diplomat, across the room, mistaking the trust fall for a dominance ritual. The Zikita crashed into a wall with a sickening crunch. Janet, ever the optimist, ignored the chaos. Good effort. Now next on the agenda, conflict resolution through active listening. This was the moment Gorlak had been waiting for. He stood up, towering over the humans, his 7 eyes burning with barely contained rage. "You humans think listening will solve millennia of warfare? My people have crushed empires. We do not need your soft skills." Karen, who had been silently typing away on her tablet, looked up sharply. "I'm hearing a lot of hostility in your tone, Gorlak." she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Perhaps you could benefit from a session on emotional intelligence. Emotional? What? It's the ability to understand and manage your own emotions while also recognizing the emotions of others, Karen explained, as if she was speaking to a particularly dim child. I could send you some materials, if you'd like. Gorlak's 7 eyes twitched violently. I will annihilate you. See, this is what we're talking about, Karen continued, completely unfazed. Threatening to annihilate others isn't a very collaborative mindset. Maybe we should schedule a follow-up one-on-one? As the tension mounted, Janet decided it was time to bring out the heavy artillery. She opened her binder, revealing a flowchart labeled Conflict Resolution via Key Performance Indicators, KPIs. This, she said gravely, is how we'll solve your disputes. We'll conduct performance reviews of each species to determine areas for improvement. The alien stared at the chart in stunned silence. Bob, standing off to the side, gave a thumbs up. Performance reviews are the cornerstone of any productive ecosystem. One of the Rithka, an insectoid species, leaned forward. What? What are these KPIs you speak of? Janet smiled as if she'd just revealed the secret to eternal life. KPIs, or key performance indicators, are metrics we use to track how well you're doing. For example, the Rithka might need to work on their diplomacy skills, while the Skta could improve in the area of not invading other species' planets. The room erupted in chaos. Each species began arguing over whose KPIs were the most accurate. Gorlak, sensing an opportunity, declared that his war campaigns should count as strategic initiatives. The Zexta insisted their invasions were part of their core competencies. Meanwhile, the Glorbs argued that their ability to merge with other beings' nervous systems should be seen as a collaborative strength. Janet, however, was not done. She flipped to the next section of her binder. The Performance Improvement Plan, PIP. If you don't meet your KPIs, she said sweetly, you'll be placed on a PIP. This is a formal process to help underperforming species improve before, well, let's just say failure is not an option. The mention of the PIP sent waves of panic through the room. The Rithka general, now sweating profusely, a rare sight for an insect, whispered to his aide, What happens if we fail the PIP? Janet's smile widened. Oh, you don't want to know. Suddenly, every species was scrambling to improve their KPIs. Gorlak, once the most feared warlord in the galaxy, was now desperately attempting to leverage synergies with the Zakta. The Glorbs were submitting weekly status updates to ensure they weren't placed on the dreaded PIP. Even the Grisholts were reworking their entire military doctrine to include cross-functional teamwork. Meanwhile, Karen had been sending a flurry of friendly reminders to the entire Galactic Alliance. One particularly aggressive email read, Just a quick note. Some of you seem to be struggling with basic conflict resolution. Remember, it's not hard to send a CC when addressing intergalactic disputes. Let's try to be better. By the end of the day, the once feared Galactic Alliance was no more. In its place was a bureaucratic nightmare. Every planetary conflict was now settled via quarterly reviews and passive-aggressive emails. Diplomatic talks were replaced with team-building retreats, and the threat of the PIP loomed over every species. In the midst of it all, Thrag the Destructor, a warlord who had resisted the humans from the start, submitted a formal resignation. His reason? Inability to achieve buy-in from stakeholders. As Janet sat in the break room, sipping her coffee, Bob entered, looking more exhausted than usual. They're terrified of the PIP, he said, shaking his head. Of course they are, Janet replied with a smirk. The only thing scarier than war is paperwork. Memo subject, get your act together. Reminder, screw up your KPIs and it's PIP time. Emotional intelligence seminar next week. Skip it and you're out. Be better. Senior Synergy Officer in Human Resources.
Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more original content. New chapters and standalone stories uploaded weekly.